children. I appreciate you taking the offering. Very nice of you. My story goes way back to the very end of 1979. And Auntie Peggy, who's playing the piano, was ready to have a baby. And I was very excited. Have any of you ever had a baby brother or sister in your family? Yes, you have. What do you remember about that?
They were little. He was little.
Very little.
He had hair.
Had hair? Good. What about any pets? Baby puppies or kittens? Have any of you had pets?
2 dogs and a bunny and a frog.
2 dogs, a bunny, and a frog. Good for you. Yes. 2 dogs, and aren't they cute? Now, the one thing that I think of that I think is a miracle from Jesus is that all of these pets that you've mentioned have the ability right after they're born to do what? What do? They go right to mama and nurse for milk. How do they know how to do that? Little babies don't know much of anything, do they? But they know how to find milk from their mothers. And so this has always seemed amazing to me. So when mama is ready to give birth, what do? You drive to the hospital, right? Wrong. You get in the airplane and you fly to the hospital. And so that's what we did in Africa. So we flew to a Presbyterian hospital close by, but it was about a 3-hour drive of very rough roads. And we were there for a few days until Auntie Peggy delivered a baby. And I was so happy to see this new baby born on January 1, 1980. But I would encourage you, do not look in the last page of the bulletin to find out who this is, as they wish to remain anonymous. So anyway, the very next day, I went out to the airplane because every day there's a radio net at that time, and there was about 10 missions that would talk on the radio in a certain order. And I wanted to go out and tell them the good news that Mama Peggy was in good health and the baby was in good health. And as I got close to the plane, what do you think I saw? I saw lots of soldiers around. There were no soldiers when we came, but the next day, January 2, 1980, there were soldiers. And they told me that I could not get in the airplane because I wanted to radio our mission. And so I started talking to them. Why were they worried? Well, it turns out that the government had declared that all the cash of the whole country was no longer worth anything, not anything at all. So everybody's cash was null and void. It wasn't money anymore. And so I have some of this cash here. This is from 1980. This is money that they took away from us. And if you want to hand it around, I want this back. But would you like to take a look? Okay, and hand some of it to the other children. This is old money that is no longer worth anything. And So the soldiers did not want me to do something, and here's what they told me. This is a true story. They said, we're afraid that you're going to call Jimmy Carter and tell Jimmy about this big problem in Zaire, where the money is no longer worth anything. And so I started talking. In Africa, you talk with the soldiers. And finally, I tricked a few soldiers to come inside the airplane with me. I knew they would be interested. So I needed to start the plane up because the radio uses a lot of battery power. And I didn't want the battery to run out. So I started the engine. And these soldiers were there when I called our mission and told them everything was fine. And so this story has remained with me. And here is what president has been in the news recently that just passed away. You probably haven't heard, have you? What about the audience? Does anybody in the audience remember which president just passed away?
The same one you just talked about.
Jimmy Carter just passed away. He's a president from the past. So that's my story, and I thank you for listening carefully. If you'll hand the money back that's not worth anything, you can go back to your seats.